Infighting alert. Infighting alert. Right on right violence. Also profanity alert. But infighting. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm gonna put my earphones in a minute when I'm doing this video. I wanted to talk about, I did my video last night and I was wearing the Alex Jones shirt that says, you know, we're all Alex Jones. And I wanted to prove to you that you don't have to agree with everybody to stand up for the message. And it said, don't censor me instead of don't tread on me. And I'm a sucker for the, you know, snack life. But rant, inbound. I'm going to go ahead and play them first, the videos. And let me see. There we go. I'm about to move this bad boy over here. Because I know, there we go. Thought about scrolling down, but here we go. I want to do the chronology first. This is Captain Mike Maloney.
All right.
But listen, here's Owen.
Let's talk about Alex Jones. See, Alex Jones apparently recently went on another rant about me, like loving Hitler or something.
But remember, the Owen Benjamins of the world, talented comedian, nice guy I had on, till I found out he was saying Germany had a great leader in the early 40s. Bullcrap. Hitler was a psychotic demon. Both my grandfathers almost died fighting him.
Here's a funny joke. I gotta preface this by saying a joke, because someone like Alex Jones will take this out of context and try and smear me with it. You know, I used to like Adolf Hitler until I found out he didn't really kill 6 million Jews. It's hilarious. The joke he was referring to out of context was, people say Donald Trump is just like Hitler. That's not fair. Hitler was a great leader. These are basic. Yes, I wrote the latter joke. I didn't write the first joke. Someone wrote that in the comment section. I laughed my ass off. But of course he took that out of context. I wanted to...
Okay, and so I just wanted to play that to show you. That's not the video I took out of context, but the video I couldn't find of him on the 4th hour either. Alex Jones had removed it, and he's not on YouTube, and so I'm trying to find. It was definitely over a month ago, and I can't find anything on the General Shepherd or any of these other, you know, people that are doing their part to keep this stuff alive on YouTube, especially after the recent ban we talked about, where you get in trouble for talking about them. How long will that go until it's on YouTube, operating that way? So I wanted to just use that because I couldn't find his clip, but I saw that on the Owen clips he had already got that. But I was watching Alex Jones today. I went to click in on him, and I hadn't been watching him in a while, and it's nothing to do with this beef, okay? There's been a lot of other crap in between people. The thing is, when you're like me, not me, but what I'm going through, and especially now that I'm doing my own stuff, you don't have time for everybody. And the more people in your journey you like, it's like with music. You say, oh, Led Zeppelin's my favorite band. Then you'll go down the road and start learning Jimi Hendrix, and you'll go, well, Jimi Hendrix is my favorite band. And then you're deciding, you know, and you're figuring out how much time you're going to spend playing each person's music, or, you know, which one do you really like the best. But I'm at the point where there's so many ground level people, I have to divvy my time accordingly. But today I'd caught up on it some. And as soon as I clicked on this video, the live stream on this site, I saw this.
Patriots in the U.S. government fighting back against the deep state, working with the Chi-Coms and others against our president and against the Patriot movement that's taken over the Republican Party. We are winning. And I told you when I went to D.C. a few weeks ago that I had 2 meetings with people that had direct meetings with Trump. I had another meeting with someone who had been involved in the joint meetings and was writing briefings to the president. And I told you that the president is intending to move to have the deep state actors indicted.
See, he's talking about having sway, and this is
Jeanine Pirro just came out and said that last night.
Here you go.
So you keep noticing what I say years ago, what I say weeks ago, what I say days ago, word for word happens. It's not because I'm Oprah Winfrey in The Secret and I'm going ooga booga abracadabra and then it's happening like I'm a wizard or Emperor Palpatine. I'm really a serious person, heavily immersed in all this.
So did you hear that?
And I'm sorry, most people, even career, you keep noticing what I say years ago, what I say weeks ago, what I say days ago, word for word happens. It's not because I'm Oprah Winfrey in The Secret and I'm going ooga booga abracadabra and then it's happening like I'm a wizard.
See, he knows what's going on before because he's reading the tea leaves. He says it's not like I'm Oprah with the big secret and ooga booga. Here it is, magic. Now everybody, including myself, gets what that means. Just like how people get what Owen meant when he was saying, everybody's giving me shit about Donald Trump being a terrible leader. I always thought he was a great leader. Fuck, I ruined it. So I'm not a comedian. But he said like, where, you know, I said in the early videos, you said, how do you argue against this? How do you argue against some of these stupid blanket statements and slogans? They don't want an answer. The way you combat them is with more, you know, craziness, so to speak. And so you go, you're a Hitler guy. You love Donald Trump. I bet you loved Hitler. And you go, I used to love Hitler until I realized he didn't really go through with it. You know, it's a joke. And, of course, since it's at the expense of, say, Jews, it's going to get more pull, especially with the InfoWars and things. And I tell Jones, this is what people talk about when they say something like a shield, because this isn't really shielding people from technology and other things and what a country is doing. Like Israel, people have complaints. This is somebody saying a joke, and you're freaking out about it. And as far as people saying burning bridges, I don't say it's burning bridges on Owen's part when he's talking shit, because that's a dirty thing to do. Of all the things, people say it's such a petty thing. That's the point. For free speech, something that's so petty, quote unquote, shouldn't matter. Something that Jones just said by his own, what he just went through with Owen, you're not going to disparage these people. And to me, I think it's Harrison Smith that runs right in there, because he's still butthurt over how the moon landing debate he had on War Room with Owen Benjamin went. He was scorned by Owen because all he did was weasel his way in, saying we could do these clips, like he had done on Crowder, who's also shitting on him. You know, he can go fuck himself. But with Owen, he was doing comedy stuff, and they were thinking we could get this from him, and he was talking to Harrison, hey, you know, I kind of like this guy, whatever. And then he had turned on him. He's the one who had told on him, and they said someone called in to InfoWars, and, you know, this is not the first time Owens even said that joke or even joked about Jewish people like he would with anybody. You're actually being racist by not including people in the chance of being joked at their expense. And so people don't realize that. But that's what had happened, and you can't go back on there anymore because of that. And it really puts a bad taste in people's mouths, no matter what it's about, because it makes them feel like there's something that you're not going to talk about. And it was clearly a joke. It's pretty neat. You know, it's not like, yeah, hell, victory and all that, like a Richard Spencer or something. And even then, who cares? But it's no different than, say, what if I was on there and they love to talk shit about communism, and I don't like communism either, but on InfoWars, what if I were to sit back and say, oh, I sure do love communism. That Stalin was a great guy. You know, I could get past the killing Christians like me part if I, you know, as long as the trains run on time, you know. Or even in a sarcastic way saying, oh man, of course I would love a communist dictatorship. I love starving to death in the streets. Are they going to get somebody in trouble for that because there's people out there that are starving that might take offense to that? Jones, you going to do that to everyone? But I wrote all this out. And I want to get to it before I forget. I tried to print it out big, but the printer in there is being ass. So, Political Dank House, IG at political_Dank House, Twitter at political_Dank. They cut us off. No house for us there. No house for you. Aaron Humperdinck, which is me, Dylan James, IG at One Man Carnival with the underscores. That's my personal Twitter, personal DJ Line Barrier, or One Man Carnival for the art. I'm working on it. And Gab under the same name, but with the underscores. Pause it if you can't see it, but we'll figure it out. We'll put it on somewhere. But Jones said, something along the lines of, I'm not like Oprah in The Secret with the ooga booga feel good spirit spells. We all know what he meant, ooga booga, and you could say, oh, back to Africa stuff, but that's where a lot of spiritual stuff was with all that witch doctor and stuff. But Oprah happened to be black. Owen's jokes were just as funny as he would have done about anybody else. You know, he has jokes about that nigger stole my bike and things. I don't, you know, Jones was okay with all that stuff before Owen said that. So it's almost like he's sacred cow, and that's what's pissing people off. And that's what creates people to be actual anti-Semites. You know, whatever you think about the word. I don't use words like that. It's stupid, but you make people think that there's something against them when you start doing things like that, where it's only them. And because he knew about that nigger stole my bike and the Mexicans and all sorts of jokes at people's expense that Owen had done, and they were funny. He rags on everybody, so you can't tell me that he just now, oh, this was the last straw. If I would have known, you know, until I was with Owen, until I figured out he was joking about Hitler, like he was a great guy. Owen, if you know his streams, has strictly said he doesn't like Hitler because he's still socialist and he thinks he's a faggot and stuff like that. He's vegan, he can't be trusted. So I gave Jones the context that he's not giving Owen, but I get what he's saying. Jones, but he just shit on Owen for an intentional Hitler shock humor joke that was clearly showcasing what ludicrous representation of Hitler to Trump that people do. He may not have even thought of it like Marxists do. I know I don't, but I think of the primitive thinking and action. And the same people telling us we all came from a bunch of hyphenated Lloyd, like Mongoloid, Negroid, Angloid, all this stuff, Australoid. Monkeys are the same ones applying it to only one race, like a real racist would. It's nuts, isn't it? You say Ooga Booga, they think monkeys, they automatically think blacks. But the same people, the higher ups, they're evolutionists, they think we all came from monkeys. Why can't you call everyone a monkey? This was the same thing that happened with the Valerie Jarrett. I might get into it. Ron Perlman, who ironically was running his mouth about Trump, he's white. He looks like a gorilla more than anyone I've ever seen. So what are you going to do? And that's what pissed me off about the Roseanne thing, really, that I'm talking about. That also includes Jones and especially Owen Benjamin, who states it was a big win for the left, Owen does, because Roseanne didn't back down immediately and then gained support and then cowered in fear. It would have been just better if she just been over right then and not got everybody on the wagon, because people stood up for her. And I think that Facebook and these other outlets dinging Jones is wrong, of course. What are they afraid of? He's not even as woke as you can get. And to those who say, gatekeeper, he's more prominent than you, and that's not shitting on you, but he's more prominent than you, and you can say that that's because he sells out, whatever. But if he gets destroyed in an algorithm, then they will make it harder for me or you, because we're not even set up that way. We're not, sold out to someone, as you might say, or we're not, established over 20 years' time. So it's stupid to say, you know what, fuck it, cut the limb off that I'm also sitting on just so you'll fall. People try to say, well, they just find so-and-so like a more quote-unquote woke or more hardcore person. They might find so-and-so faster due to InfoWars not being in the way, or other people. If they are the lesser of the awake, or people say shills, if they're lesser of the awake than you by default, then people would need to be soft woken, as they would say. I hate the word woke, but you hear me out. Soft woken to get you who is more awake, as it would be too much. It's like, this is not the rule, but how you would sip on some beer versus, down in a bunch of liquor, you're going to get fucked up, if you do too much, and people are automatically antsy of things like that. So some people need that to jump up, where they are down the road of ideology. But the problem that people have, and I think they're not clarifying it right, is that some people stay on that, whether it's with a leader like Trump, whether it's with a broadcaster like Alex Jones. They stay there and they get stagnant. But they're not wording it like that. They're just, oh, shill, everybody but me's a shill. It just gets old. But there's a gradient of waking up, I feel like, for a lot of people, at least the normal amount of people. You don't go into the gym and lift 200 pounds first day. And I know the mind's different, but you've heard of being mind blown. And it happens to people. There's information overload. You're going to turn people away and just want to give up. That's where all these nihilistic things come from. People are trying to embrace stuff that's coming out, and they can't hide from it anymore in Generation Z and all that stuff. And they haven't cared about politics, so they're not even ready to equip this crazy news coming out, and it's the most intense. But that being said, what are the chances that someone is going to see an ultra-hard truth person first versus a few jumps out from it in their progression and take it the same way? I'd say it's absolutely not impossible, but it is low. That's just the way we are in the United States. On a lot of political issues, you have to be walked into it. and self-realize. And a lot of people, with the immigration or anything, you have to start to be affected by something to realize, okay, maybe it matters, because people are ultimately selfish, and they want to go at their own time. They want to do things their own way. And that being said, they may seem to shy away from issues you speak on, these broadcasters. I'm talking about the lily pads, the gatekeepers, the in-betweens. But that's what makes you passionate about the subject on their behalf. And the problem is, to me, it looks like a lot of people dwell on certain issues is the problem, because they act like there's that one issue somebody doesn't cover. There's a lot of things that say like InfoWars wouldn't cover besides, Israeli stuff. But to me, NASA stuff, Jones sucks it to NASA, and I hate them just as much as I would, hate in the term. I don't lay awake at night, ooh, NASA. But you talk about funding going to nothing. I would say that, and he just worships them. To him, he's more of a libertarian, with the government's so bad. He's against every government program and outlet and agency until he gets to NASA. And that's different. When people say, well, they're private. Yeah, it's like the Federal Reserve's private. You're against them. Facebook and them are, de facto working with the government, and they're private, so it's not an excuse. And someone who's more passionate about that issue can be, dialed into that issue that they're not covering, and maybe someone that's saying, you know what, maybe I have noticed that he will shy away from this, or whoever will shy away from this, and then they'll go after those other people. That's my speaker going off. Just think of it as they're the 101 to the more advanced classes, which is you or whoever you are. They serve a purpose, whether they're being used by someone above them, in power, or it's truly them, or it's shying away from things, not wanting to touch things versus don't you touch those things. I think God uses anyone to say the truth or to inadvertently spark the discussion of an issue to someone they say in jest. Because Facebook has banned numerous anti-war pages, and I'm a non-interventionalist. There's a lot of times when I say, stuff could be, for our interest in things, but far as going over and just bombing the shit out of each other, no. In the paradigm, I'm anti-war as well, at least with the right-left. I lean right, but numerous lefties and liberals got banned from these groups as well. There's things I've gotten in trouble for on the internet about talking shit about Bush and other people being pro-war. It may have been because I insulted their character, but it's all the same to them. And on top of all this, for months, they even banned the entire page of left and right members discussing the legitimacy of being the world's police, among other things. You see what I mean? It's not just, you guys can't talk about this. They're banning the pages. They're banning meme pages. And pages, that's not just a person. That's not censoring a person. And that's not just banning a person. You're going after the whole group. And you know that these groups are housing left versus right debates. And whether Facebook doesn't want that or not, we'll just have to, assume. But I know for sure that they're squashing any chance at reaching a conclusion between the two, finding out what we have in common with anti-war or, medical tyranny or what have you. And I think that's what they're after. They're not just afraid of quote-unquote the truth. They're afraid of people's process of thinking. Just like if you were an instructor or someone trying to make money off of classes, you wouldn't tell someone everything in the beginning. It would be in your vested interest to keep them slowly moving along. Same with the government, if not more so. And it's more of a secrecy because they can just print money. It's to keep things from you. It's about what they don't want you opposing, and it's not your ideology. It's about what they're doing that you're opposing, and they don't like it. They don't care how you get there. Despite what I said, they would like to keep people from getting there in the first place. And the government does not desire an unarmed populace, and they don't want people to have guns, of course. And it gets an even bigger erection, the government does, when you desire to do it yourself, like Australia and all these other places. We're going to turn our guns in. New Zealand, that's like magic to them. They can get you to hurt yourself, do what's against your own best interest. The government's outside of heavily blue areas here in America and other places, but for America, in my case, because I can speak for it, they don't care about you having these things as much as the federal government's military-industrial complex cares about foreign interventions, which at this point are all entanglements. And I think people are slowly realizing that that's not, what is in the vested interest of people that are left or right. It's not making our farms great again. It's not doing all these things. It's not helping our schools. You know, I am about school. You know, I am, but it's not going to infrastructure. It's not, and all these things are keeping us squabbling over stuff that's not important, petty squabbles. And I see the same about the Jones thing. The way he approached it was just the dumbest thing to get after someone on. And you know, Crowder went after Owen because he questioned, you know, NASA's legitimacy and what we've done in the '60s with the moon and all that stuff. And he had a personal, you know, a butt hurt because someone in his family is an astronaut, and he couldn't handle whether they were a liar or someone saying that they didn't do that. It's just like with the Jones, you know, he pulls out the grandparents. My grandparents fought the Nazis. You know, it's just kind of weird to do that. It's just so dated, and that's coming from someone like me. We usually say, well, the left, they all the time, emotion, this and that. Right-wingers need to stop it too. No one cares. That's not you, Jones. You're not your grandfather. You're not your grandparents. And you saying, well, my grandfather fought the Nazis. That doesn't give you superiority over to tell Owen what jokes are or aren't funny. You should have discussed it with him in private and said, you know, can you tamp this down? I know Owen would. And if he wouldn't, then it would have been his choice. But you can't just sit there and say, well, I used to think it was funny until this. Because he made fun of all sorts of people. I'm not a fan of Muslims, but he made fun of Muslims and all sorts of other people. And Jones was fine with it. And I think it's real shitty because it's affecting someone's reach. It's affecting someone's, what do you call it? Not notoriety, but their persona. You're affecting someone's character. Because a lot of people will watch Alex Jones and see that and think, and they're not going to go to Owen and see the clip. And Jones won't even show from his own show what the clip was. There's a lot of times he'll take the clip off if he, you know, it's bothered him like that. Or someone in his company will do it. I think Jones is so busy he wouldn't notice a lot of stuff like that. It's, you know, people in the company saying, oh, I want to joke about this. So you need to get those shitheads in line, Jones, if you're going to do that. Because I thought that was a real shit move. It's going to cause a lot of people to question how you are towards the fight, and not, oh, well, he won't touch this, he doesn't have a sense of humor. But of all things, you know, it's just something so petty. What are you going to do when hard information comes and we have to embrace these uncomfortable truths? How are you going to handle that? But I think I've said all I had to say. Here it is, at political_dankhouse on IG, Twitter, at political_dank. On YouTube, I'm at Political Dank House, and down here I'm at Elron Humperdinck on my personal on YouTube. The shithead account, IG is at _man_carnival. Twitter at DJ Linebarrier, at one man carnival none. No underscores. Gab is at _man_carnival. And so you guys tell me what you think, and I'll be glad to hear it.